All right, I see the people are starting to pour in, and it is 9 o'clock on the West Coast. So let's kick off this meetup and get it started. So welcome everyone to the June 20th edition of the Vancouver Power BI Modern Excel User Group Meetup. Today we've got Gregor Brunner is here to talk about Measure Killer. But before we do that, of course, we're going to go and we're going to do our normal stuff. So the first thing I want to throw out is a big thanks to the sponsors that make this possible. Skillwave.training is the company that I run with Matt Ellington to help provide the very best in training for Excel and Power BI. If you want to learn how to really master these products, you should definitely check out our courses. Excel Guru is the parent company of Skillwave and also the distributor of Monkey Tools, an Excel add-in that will help you build better data models faster. Our next meetups that we have coming up in a couple of weeks, we're going to be welcoming Rick de Groot is going to be coming to talk about Power Query on our little track here. He's going to be looking at custom comparer functions. So that should be an interesting thing. If you don't know Rick, he's just recently published a new book on Power Query, a quite advanced book. So I'm sure we're going to see some pretty good stuff here. Note that this is a 10 a.m. Pacific start time. A little bit earlier than our normal, but that's because Rick is coming to us from the Netherlands, so we need to make sure that he's awake. After that, we've got Sue Bays is going to be joining us. Now she's going to be starting even earlier. She's coming, I believe, from England is where Sue's going to be presenting from. And she's going to be talking about Tabular Editor for Power BI users. So again, this will be another fantastic session. Both of these should be open for RSVPs now. Just a quick note on Monkey Tools. The latest release of Monkey Tools that has gone public is from June 5th, version 0.8922. In this one, we had released some BiblioMonkey updates. We've got a search feature now. This was a user request who requested and told me that they had over 400 Lambda signatures stored in BiblioMonkey, and they needed a way to quickly find them. So we built in a nice little search feature in there to allow you to do that. We've added some new tags, Excel table names, named ranges and arrays, and for formulas, full row, full column, Excel tables, named ranges, arrays as well. So you can actually start tagging up your formulas and queries to be a little bit more dynamic for when you go to recall them. Again, all of these features exist for free users on BiblioMonkey as well. So you should definitely check that out if you haven't already. Naturally, there's a variety of bug fixes and user interface enhancements that I've been releasing to these as well. As I've been recording a series of videos and finding things that don't quite work the way I want them, I've been fixing those and actually releasing those as we go along. And there's more of those to come as well in the next couple of weeks. If you're interested in seeing a video on how to use Monkey Tools, I've been getting a lot of great feedback about this. People are really enjoying these. You can find that on YouTube at this link here. As far as the using Monkey Tools videos, I think I'm supposed to have my animation set up that way. Here's a couple of them that we're featuring. A nice quick monkey to build multiple explicit measures right off the bat for you. The modern pivot monkey, which takes classic pivot tables and upgrades them to data model versions. We pull your data into Power Query, rebuild all your pivot tables, link to the data model and so forth in seconds. Super easy. Some auditing stuff around a model summary report and a memory usage report for your Power Pivot models. And both of those last two will actually also run on Power BI models as well if you happen to be using Monkey Tools and connecting to an external Power BI report. If you're interested in downloading your copy of Monkey Tools, you can do so at the link there. And remember, it's free to get started. You can even get a pro trial license as well for all the pro features to give them a shot. Speaking of Monkey Tools, there is just over 24 hours left in the promotion that we have running right now. We're halfway to International Monkey Day right now, so we put out a coupon code of Bananas20 that'll get you 20% off an annual or a lifetime Monkey Tools license. So if you're interested in signing up for that, don't forget to take advantage of it before the deadline ends at midnight tomorrow night on Pacific time. Finally, a couple things to let you know. My next kickoff date for my Excel Fundamentals Bootcamp is on July 10th. This is a fantastic program if you're trying to, fill in some knowledge gaps around formulas, pivot tables, data visualization, and Power Query. Maybe for you or for someone on your team. If you're interested, you should definitely check out this product. We have these running all year long, and it gives you access to not only a huge amount of great course material, but also access into every 2 weeks I host a live Ask Ken Anything sessions where you can ask me anything and get solutions that are actually working for your business. So it's a great program there. If you already know your basics in Excel and you're interested in taking your Power Query, Power Pivot, and Power BI to the next level, we also run our Self-Service Business Intelligence Academy. You should definitely check that one out. It has all the benefits of what you see in our basic level, some high advanced coaching. You get access to Monkey Tools, you get access to my books, you get access to my Ask Ken Anything sessions. There's a huge amount of value in this program, and I'd highly recommend that you check it out. One of the things, every meetup here, this one along with every other one, it does get recorded. I will post the recording on this, usually 24 to 48 hours after the fact, and this goes onto the SkillWave YouTube channel. Once the recording is live, I will post about that on meetup.com. So as long as you RSVP'd, you will get an email to let you know when it goes live. If it hasn't got live by Friday afternoon, just wait, it's coming, I promise, but it will show up, all right? So those will be recorded and released, usually, as I say, within 24 to 48 hours after the meeting is done. We also have a couple of quick Monkey Shorts videos. If you're interested in learning some better ways to use Power Query and IntelliSense, you can find those here. These are less than 3 minutes of technical content each, nice and easy, bite-sized pieces to be able to go through and get just a little bit of learning when you might need it. And finally, the last thing that I'm going to mention here is if you would like to come and speak to our meetup about any technology involving Excel or anything in the Power Platform stack, we would love to have you. First-time speakers are welcome. It's a very friendly crowd here. Just fill out this little survey here. Again, all of the links of this are all in the slide deck that has already been uploaded to Meetup. We'll get in contact with you. We'll get you on our stage, and we would love to have you. And that's my bit for today. So what we're going to do is we're going to welcome our speakers here. Gregor is going to be coming up, but first we've got Joseph is going to be joining us for this month's What's New in Power BI. So Joseph, are you ready to take over and show us what's new?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome.
I will just grab the screen and away we go. All right. Thank you, Ken, and welcome everyone to the June 2024 What's New in Power BI. So for the second month in a row, I think I've had like a week to prepare. The updates are coming out earlier. I have more than 24 hours to see what's new in Power BI. So this is great. Where I always start, and I know I say this every month, but I always start with the Microsoft Power BI blog to look at the feature summary, what's new in Power BI. With the 10 to 15 minutes that I usually take to do this, I just like picking 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of my favorite features for this month. But if you do want to see a comprehensive list of what's new in Power BI and even a roadmap of what's coming up, I would definitely recommend checking out the monthly feature summary blog. So for this month, I figured since we're having a DAX Measure Killer presentation, I'm going to focus on some of the DAX features of what's new in Power BI. And one of them, which is sort of related to DAX, I guess, is a update to the visual calculations. So if we just go down the blog here to reporting, it's the very first thing on the blog post. I covered visual calculations a few months ago. I think it's one of the coolest things that's come to Power BI probably within the last couple of years. It's one of my favorite new features. And what it allows us to do is to define calculations specifically for one visual within the report. We'll jump into Power BI in just a second, and we can see what I mean when I say that. But for what's new for this month is that more visual types are now supported for visual calculation. So we now have scatter plots and we have maps that are available for us to use visual calculations for. So I'll just jump into Power BI and let's have a look at what's going on. So I have this, what's going on with my screen size? I have this scatter plot here. We have total balance on the x-axis, count of clients on the y-axis, and I want to have a measure that defines the size of the bubbles on the chart because they're all really small and sort of difficult to see at the moment. So if I click on the visual up here on the ribbon, I can go to New Calculation. And this brings up a little matrix of data just underneath the visual, and formula bar pops up, and I'm able to start defining a calculation, defining a visual calculation to use within the context of the visual. So I have total balance, I have count of clients. Just for argument's sake, say I wanted the size to be like an average balance per client. And if I don't want to create this as a DAX measure in my data model to use in lots of different places in the report, if I just need it within the scope of the visual, I can define that here. So just like writing a DAX measure or a calculated column, I can say something like average balance. And we have all the usual DAX functions available to us to use for these visual calculations. So I can just do something like total balance divided by count of clients. And we'll have a look at that. And we see that we have a new column within our visual, average balance. And over to the right-hand side here, this average balance visual calculation has been added to the size well of the scatter chart visual. So if I go back to the report, we can see now that those bubbles have sizes based on that visual calculation. This doesn't exist anywhere in our data model. It only exists within the scope of this visual. So this is all well and good, except these dots are a little small here. So if I want to update this calculation, I can go back to the visual calculation field in the visual well, go to edit calculation, and I can either edit this existing calculation, or I can add a new one if I wanted to. So what should we do? Should we add a new one? Yeah, let's add a new one. So I'll go to new calculation. And we can just do a simple like if statement. We can do some conditional logic. We can say, let's say if average balance. And we can use variables just like with other DAX. Everything available to us in DAX and other measures is available to us in visual calculations. So we can just store average balance. We can store average balance as a variable within our DAX measure. So what's cool, what I really like about these visual calculations is that we can actually reference other visual calculations within the same visual. So we can start building up multi-stepped logic with these visual calculations as well. And we'll just say return if average balance is less than, we'll say 10,000. We can see this like credit card average balance is only $400, insurance is only 1,000. The other ones are in the hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands. So let's say if it's less than 10,000, we'll take the average balance and we'll multiply it by 100. And if not, we'll return the average balance. If we do that, and we see that the size of these of the circles on our scatter plot updated automatically. And what happened here, if we look at the build pane on the right-hand side, our average balance visual calculation was automatically hidden here. It was the show in visual where we're hiding it, and the if average balance is now appearing in our visual. So automatically, once we start building logic off of these visual calculations, they still exist. We can still see them and we can still update these calculations, but now we're just displaying exactly what we want to see in our visual. One thing I demoed last month as well, which I think is important to call out again, is that we also have these new DAX measures only available in visual calculation. So these are specific visual calculation functions available to us, and they can make doing complex DAX really easy within the scope of a visual. So things like running sum, moving average, percent of parent, etc. As I say, I demoed some of these functions in a previous month, but I'm sure that we'll get more of these visual calculation functions available to us as we go on, right? Like this feature is still in preview, I think. So it's only going to get better and better, but really easy just to define specific calculations for a visual. If we head back to the report, let me go back into the blog. And if I scroll up to the top, we can see my second favorite function, or second favorite feature, rather, for this month. So we looked at visual calculations. The next is new info functions with DAX. So again, I think I covered some of these in a previous month. We have some new info functions coming to Power BI, and these can help make troubleshooting our DAX measures, but also just understanding our data model, understanding our measures, understanding what's going on in our Power BI report. It makes it a lot easier, and we can do a lot more within our Power BI desktop application now, not having to rely on going to external tools to do some of the same investigation and deep dive. So the new function that I'm going to be looking at is this info calc dependency. I think this one's really cool. So let's go back into our Power BI report, and I'm going to go to the new DAX query view. So I've already pre-populated a query statement, a DAX query statement, using the new info calc dependency function. And what I want to do is I want to look at the query when I evaluate our count of clients measure. So this is the same measure that I just used in the scatter chart. I just want to look to see sort of under the hood, how is this working? How is this count of clients measure being run, being executed? So if I hit run, we get our results down here, and we can see that a few things are happening. So when this measure executes, first we're trying to execute the measure, which is count of clients, and we can see the actual expression of the measure as well. I'm summing the num clients column of the fact table. And we can see going back, okay, the table is our fact table. We're looking at the num of clients column in that table. So this is a pretty basic measure. I'm just aggregating a single column of data. But if we have more complicated measures, this can make it really easy and quick to investigate. So if I look at clients 2019, for example, and let's actually have a look at this measure first. So if I go to define and evaluate, this is what the measure is in my report data model. On the fact table, clients 2019, I'm calculating the count of clients measure, but there's a filter where the year from our date table is equal to 2019. So this is the measure that we're looking at, and we want to see exactly how does this calculate, how does this work. So when I hit run here, we see that I'm getting a few more rows of results. The measure is a little bit more complex. We see that reference expression again, that same calculate statement. We see that I go to the date table first. I look at the year column and the date, and then I go to the fact table for num clients, which makes sense. We're looking at the date table, we're narrowing that down just the year 2019, and then we're calculating the sum of the number of clients for that filtered context of the measure. So there's tons of these info functions available to us in the DAX query view now. If I just pull up with the IntelliSense, if you just type in info, you see all of these available to us. That can give us information about our data model, about our DAX measures, about our calculated columns. Makes it really easy to dive into a Power BI report and start seeing exactly how measures are working, how they're executing, and can help us with troubleshooting or updating and editing and things like that. So those are my two favorite sort of DAX-centric features from this month. The last one I want to call out just quickly is for developers, the Power BI enhanced report format. This was sort of the topic of our feature presentation last month within the Power BI track at the Meetup group, and we got even further features is even better now that allows us to do things like source control, versioning, branching while developing our Power BI report. So if you run into problems or you're frustrated, you're trying to get multiple people to work on a Power BI report, you want to introduce version control to your Power BI reports, this feature update will make it potentially a lot easier to do that. So if that's an issue you're encountering or something you want to learn more about, I would definitely recommend checking out this section of the feature summary blog. And I think there's even its own blog page to support it as well. So I haven't had a chance to dive into this too deeply yet, so I don't have a demo built out for it, but I definitely think it's a really important feature. And when you're developing reports at scale or with a team, I think this is going to be a huge help to introduce more Git functionality to Power BI. But with that, those are my favorite features for this month. Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to pass it back to Ken, pass it back to Gregor for our feature presentation. So I'm looking forward to this one. Thank you, everyone. See you next month.
Awesome. Thanks, Joseph. Appreciate it as always. And yeah, let's. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Gregor, welcome to VanPUG, and we're excited to see what you got for us on MeasureKill today. So let me just hand the floor over to you and take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I'm going to dive right in. I don't want to waste anybody's time. So I'm just going to start off on our website. It's measurekiller.com. we started building this tool around 2 years ago. So we've done a ton of development here. I can show you how far we got. So this is an external tool for Power BI, right? You can install it on your computer. You can either download it from our website or you can get it from the Microsoft Store. And here you can see we have those 6 buttons here. So basically we started off just by analyzing a single report, and then we went into shared data sets. We ran stuff in the Power BI services admin. We're scanning the whole tenant. And now also in this new version 2.3 that will come out, we have a mode especially for analysis services. And I think this is really important also for people who want to migrate from analysis services to Power BI or Fabric. This will help you find everything that is currently used from that centralized analysis services model to find everything that is used in any of the current reports. You don't have to migrate the whole cube or whatever it is, but you can take out what you don't need. So if you have any questions, by the way, I'm going to try to have a look at the chat, and maybe Ken and Joseph can basically give me a little hint if there's a question somewhere, or you just raise your hand. Maybe I would see that, I think.
I'm happy to moderate them in for you, Gregor, if that works. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, like I said, this is the brand new version. It's still, we still have some bugs here. We haven't finished building this yet. So I'm also going to show you version 2.2 for most parts. That's the one we have released. That's the one that is stable. So let's start with this one. And here you can see what Measure Killer can actually do for you. So I have this sales report here, as you can see, some basic report with 2 pages, typical flashy sales report. When I have this open in Power BI, Measure Killer can connect to this and get all the metadata of the report and the model. So I'm going to run the tool here, and you can see it just takes a second or so. And immediately I get this little summary here that says, oh, 54% of the size of my model is only used, meaning about half of the columns or the size of the whole model is actually completely unused. And what does that mean? It means some columns are not referenced in any, or they're not needed in any relationships. Nobody built any measures on top of that. But also we look into the report, right? The visuals is not in any visuals. It's not in any filters, in conditional formatting. We even check Power Query. So if you only use a column in a join in Power Query, then we would also say this is used. So basically the tool gives you this output here, as you can see in the middle. It lists all the columns, calculated columns and measures from your model, your whole model basically. And it tells you one by one, is it used somewhere or not? And then we come to the killing part later on, because we want to remove everything that is unused to improve the performance and also make our model smaller and better organized. If I also sort by how often things are used, you can see that this profit measure here is used 12 times. It's used 4 times in artifact. That means measures or calculated columns. And then I can see exactly in which measures that profit measure actually is referenced. And I can even right-click here and I get the DAX expression. And for example, here you can see this is the whole DAX expression of that measure. And now I'm going to look for this profit measure, and then I can see, oh, it's a calculate profit and then some filter. So I can actually double check this also if what Measure Killer is telling me is actually true, that it is used in that measure. And then for those measures, you can also see if they are used themselves or not. So this year-to-date measure, for example, is referencing the profit measure, but it's not used itself. And then, of course, I can also see, it is used in some visuals. I can see on which page. Later on, we will also see how to analyze a shared model, multiple reports connected to a centralized data set. We want to clean those up as well. And then I would also see, of course, here in which reports a certain measure or column is used. The dates column here, you can see it's used in 7 artifacts, used in a relationship. We can see it's an active many-to-one relationship. It's also used in a calculation group and as a key column. We try to cover everything. So we also have visual calculations here. I can see, yeah. So for example, this year-to-date costs is used in 2 visual calculations in my report. We try to really cover everything because we will tell you to delete the stuff that is unused. So, and then of course, we don't want anything to break down. That's the worst case for us. So the tool it has been very widely used, I have to say, and we've gotten pretty far, but still I would say 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 2,000 times, maybe something goes wrong. That's why it's always good to keep backups. Even though if you end up killing something with Measure Killer, and you can see we'll have a little tab here, you can either just kill everything or do it one by one. We also have a restore functionality. So basically it's keeping backups of everything that you killed with Measure Killer. And of course, it's only killing the stuff that is unused.
Gregor,
yes.
We've got a question from one user. What is meant by used by unused? And I can see on the left-hand side,
yes.
You've got that. It was a different picture that Kirill pictured, but there you go. There's the
so,
question.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let me go to something else to explain this, because right now, actually, what I showed, I didn't have any used by unused, but in this model, so now I'm running it in the Power BI service. I'm running it on a shared model, and I'm just gonna quickly do that to show you basically how this works, because just explaining it is kind of hard. It's I will try anyway, but let's at least see it here in the output. That will help us understand what that means. I will show this mode again later. This is part of our paid features. So part of Measure Killer is free, and the online stuff, like running it in the Power BI service, is part of the paid. Oh no, there's nothing here. Oh no, wait a second. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So we have used, we have unused, and then we have used by unused. That's actually not a really good example here, but anyway, I'll try. So imagine we have something that is used. In this case, this ordinal column is used in a column sorting. Okay, so it's used in the model, but then imagine it could be used in something that is only unused itself. So basically, if something is yellow here, it means it is currently used, but it's only used in places that are themselves unused. And so once we remove the red ones, the yellow ones will become red in the next iteration, basically. And then we can remove those as well. That's what used by unused means. Hope that's clear now. But let's quickly go back to our sales report. So this is the main output I get. I can also see the size of everything. I can filter only the unused. What else can I see? I can see, I don't know, tables, and I can see what is used and unused there. I can see all the DAX expressions. That's kind of cool, right? You can search all DAX expressions of the whole model for certain, I don't know, functions or something. I can search all the M expressions. So we're always trying to add new stuff because we think that's kind of cool. For example, I have some complex reports where sometimes they say, oh, we're changing this view, this database view, and then maybe I can search, in which queries is actually this view used, and I can, in this case, I'm just searching for data flows, but I could search for a database view, and then I can see exactly, okay, so those 6 queries here are referencing this data source or view or whatever. And then I know, okay, here I have to go in and change stuff if I don't have any parameters, of course. But so this can be also really handy. So that's the main stuff. Killing means measures and calculated columns, removing the unused ones. So that we can do directly from Measure Killer. I can actually show you this. It works just like removing something with other tools. The year-to-date profit, as you can see here, is one of the unused measures. I'm going to go to kill selected. Boom. You can see already it's gone here. And of course, it's creating a backup. So you can see here this date timestamp. This is today. Sales report removed by Alien. That's the name of my computer. And I can also see that access expression here. So because here I have this backup, and then I can also restore it back. So if I made a mistake, oh, boom, it's back here. So that's because we know that this is risky, right? It's kind of risky that you just remove stuff because then it's gone. And if you didn't have any backup, of course, some things could go wrong. So that's why we built this restore functionality. For the columns that come into Power Query, so the calculated columns we can remove directly by killing them in one click. The columns, those we get a new M code. So basically, Measure Killer takes the previous M code and it adds a step at the end. Let me show you how this works. So I get as a list here all the tables or queries that have unused columns. So only those will show up here and they're sorted by the size. So it's suggesting me to start with the biggest one. Here I can save the most storage. And as you can see here, I'm logged in with the wrong account. Sorry about that. I just have to sign in here with my Brunner BI account. And then this will work. No? Do I not have access to this? Oh. Okay, I guess I don't have access to the workspace. Yeah, so we're always playing around with some permissions. And I guess seems like one of the guys took away my access here. And which workspace was this? Let me check real quick. Because all of this breaks now. So let me go into Power BI. Let's see. I don't have access to this one, right? So I need to find. Sorry, this is a little excursion here. Can I search for the workspace ID? This is actually interesting exercise. Let's see. I'm gonna run. So we also have a different mode where I can just scan the whole tenant. So I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna see which workspace it could be that I don't have access to where this data flow resides in, because I actually just don't remember. So I don't have access to, shouldn't be this one. Is it AdventureWorks? No. Let me search for 251. Maybe my projects. No. Oh, here it is. Or is it? Is it this one? Maybe one of the guys even deleted the whole thing. Sorry about that. But in the end, what Measure Killer does is basically it just copies the old query, and then oh, sorry, now I have to copy it again. And then I just paste the new code from Measure Killer in here, and it just adds one step at the end where it takes out the unused columns, basically. And I have the choice either to do a remove other columns or a remove columns. And by default, we have remove other columns, which is a best practice. Any questions or comments so far?
The one question we have from Kirill is if Measure Killer is installed and added to your external tools tab, will it update automatically when a new version comes out?
No, that's not how it works, unfortunately. Actually, we're gonna include Measure Killer into Business Ops, so that's coming, I think, in the next few days already. So there you can get updates via updating Business Ops. We are also in the Microsoft Store. So the problem is that here the updates should work, but for whatever reason, also it doesn't do it automatically. It's very strange. We haven't figured that out with Microsoft yet. Even if you search for Power BI, you can see Measure Killer will show up. So you can install it from here, but unfortunately, it doesn't do the automatic updates. But if you open the version, you will always get a notification to get the newer one. Yeah, sorry about that. It's not perfect yet, I would say. So you still need to install it every time. And we're very quick in releasing stuff, so it's gonna be basically every 2 months or so we release a new version, because we're just developing like crazy. We have a ton of things in here, and I will show you all of it in the next 40 minutes or so. So this kill columns, you can see you still have to do this manually. That's why we said, hey, let's build something to do this in one click. So basically, I want to automate the killing. I want to create a I want to have Measure Killer create a new file that has everything removed, and I don't have to do anything myself. So now I save this PBIX file as PBIP. That's what we need in order to do this one-click optimization. We call it, actually in the old version, it's called export optimized PBIP. In the new version, we're calling it one-click optimization, and that's basically what it should be called. I think we just changed this name recently because it's still an early feature. So now in the new version, it will be called one-click optimization, and you can see it's still in preview because this is something completely new. But what this does is it generates, sorry, I just have to reselect the PBIP now because I changed it. It generates a new file. So I can say sales optimized. It just wants to have a new folder. And in that folder, oh, sorry, I have to create the sales optimized. In that folder, basically Measure Killer will, it will kill everything. And then it will put this new file that I saved. Basically, we'll put that into this folder, and then I have a file where everything is removed, also the M stuff. So in one click, we can remove all the unused stuff, and you don't have to do anything yourself anymore. And this is available in all, or will be available in all modes of Measure Killer.
Gregor, can I ask you really quick, as far as the Power Query side of it goes, you can't modify a running Power BI file, right? You have to create a new one and reload it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah,
that's the limitation.
That was my feeling too. Yeah. All right, fair enough. Just checking that you hadn't stumbled onto something that I haven't found yet. So good stuff.
There's some hacking. You can actually get rid of stuff here, but when you do a refresh, it will come back. So, but with PBIP, we can do it, but you still need to generate a new one. That's the downside. So we don't have any other questions. Let's jump into the cooler stuff where we actually go into the Power BI service. Actually, before that, so we also have a best practice analyzer now. That's coming in the new version. You see, this is now the version 2.3. We have best practices also in all modes. Like we want to show more of that. We're just trying to add stuff that might be helpful to people. And what we also have in all versions, actually, and we've had for a while, is sorry, I'm gonna switch back to this one because so is the what if analysis. This is pretty cool because I haven't seen this anywhere actually. This is where we show you a really nice tree view of your model and report or reports. So if you run a shared model, you will see multiple reports here. And then you can see, okay, I have my tables. Inside my tables, I have my columns. And then I can see which ones are used and unused. And of course, if a column is used, I can open it up and I can see where it's used. So I can see, for example, all the relationships. I can see what type of relationship it is. And then I can see, oh, this is connecting those two columns. And especially for the reports, this is cool because imagine I open up this report. I see we have a report level filter. which is referencing the homeowner column from my customers table. And then I can open the pages here. I can see some pages are hidden and some pages are unhidden. And for example, if I open the overview page, which is this page that we have now, I can see we have 31 visuals. That's a lot, actually. I can see all the names or the types of the visuals if they don't have a name. And then I can see what is used to build that visual. So I can see all the columns that are needed inside that visual. Conditional format, again, everything, right? So if you only have those measures and columns in your model, you will be able to build or keep that visual alive. And of course, if I'm using a measure in a visual, then I can see what is used inside that measure. And in this case, it's the cost. It's two other measures that are used in the profit margin. And then I open that measure, and in the end, I will always end up with some columns, right? So that way I can really drill down the whole hierarchy of whatever is going on a page, on a visual, and I can also export this whole thing. Why is this called what-if analysis? Well, we try to optimize the models, right? But a lot of times, maybe you're not sure if you really want to remove something. So the what-if analysis tells you, if you remove a page, how much will you be able to save in terms of size of your model? So for example, you can see here, I have this customers page, which is hidden. In my case, I actually need it, but it could be some testing page or even this calc tool. This is just a page I built for visual calculations. So this is not really relevant, but stuff is used there. So when I open the what if analysis, it will tell me that I have a potential savings. In this case, it's really small, 0.6%. But it could be a lot depending on the report. So Measure Killer will tell me if you remove this page, certain columns will become unused because they're only used on that page. And then you'll be able to save XYZ kilobyte, megabyte, whatever. I think this is completely unique to Measure Killer. I've not seen this anywhere else in any other tools. All right. Any questions so far? Or should we switch to the online stuff?
I think you're good to switch to online, yeah.
Great. So everything I showed so far was part of the free version. Also, if you want to analyze shared models, so multiple reports, live connection to a centralized model, that's part of the free version, but only if you can download the dataset and all the reports yourself. So if you want Measure Killer to do the heavy lifting, or you cannot download the model, or you cannot find all the reports, you're not sure, then I'm going to run the online version. And you can see here that I will see all the workspaces in my tenant. And actually, since you mentioned the DAX info functions, previously, we had to rely on the XMLA endpoint to query the metadata of the semantic models. That's why here you can see only the premium workspaces in a tenant in the old version. In the new version, which we will release in like 2 weeks, you can see we can also query shared or pro workspaces. So now we can actually analyze every workspace. Even if it's a personal workspace, we can get the models, we can get the reports, we can get everything now because of those DAX info functions. So that's also going to really expand the scope of this tool. But I'm just running the old version because I have no idea what the other guys committed today in terms of the code, because I'm running this actually from code. So I don't want to run into too many bugs right now. So now what is the goal? I want to analyze a shared data set, right? So how do I do that? Imagine you have a centralized model in your Power BI tenant, this weather data set. We have multiple reports connected. Some reports are in the same workspace. Some reports are in other workspaces. And there's even more that I don't even know about because I don't have access to every workspace in our tenant. So what if I want to decrease the size of this model? Because most of the time, and I think this applies to almost every time actually, those models will be bigger than they need to be. Nobody knows what is used in any of the reports that are connected to a large golden data set, and everybody is scared to remove something from it. So the best way to figure out what's going on is to run the tenant admin mode of Measure Killer. Here, I really need to have admin privileges, but then we can find across the whole tenant everything that is connected to it, because we're using those scanner API calls. If I'm a normal user, I'm not an admin, I just have access to a couple of workspaces, but I'm not an administrator, then I can run this mode, but then I don't know if I'm missing something. That's why I want to show the tenant admin mode. So I'm going to select this weather dataset here. I'm going to click on next, and immediately I will see the full lineage of this model. And actually now we can see all Power BI reports and even paginated reports that are connected to this model, even downstream semantic models we can see here, and the reports that are connected to those, because the whole point is to analyze everything, that we make sure that nothing will break once we remove stuff from this semantic model. And right now, I can see that I have actually access to all the workspaces that have reports. And I just want to demo how it works if I don't have access to everything. Because Measure Killer, since I'm running this mode here as a tenant admin, Measure Killer can find stuff also if I don't personally have access to a workspace, and it will grant me permissions just to run the analysis. And I just want to show this real quick. So I'm going to re-authenticate, because only then it will get the metadata again. And I hope that the permissions are already reflected. This usually takes a few seconds if you remove somebody from a workspace. Yeah, okay, here we go. So now you can see that now I don't have access to everything, but I still see what's going on. So I see everything. Even if it's in a personal workspace, actually, I will see that somebody built a report there. In this case, it's actually my personal workspace. But we want to include everything here to make sure that nothing will break down once we kick out all the unused columns and measures. And I can also add local files. So if I have a local file, let's see, it doesn't really matter. You can basically drag and drop any Power BI file here. Of course, the whole point is that it's connected to, or you're pulling data from this model, but maybe some Power BI or PageNet reports are not in the service yet, but you still want to include them in the analysis, then you can drag and drop it here. But in this case, it's something else. I just wanted to show the drag and drop. And what we can also do here is Excel. Ken, this is your area, right? Analyze in Excel. Finance people are doing that. A lot of people are doing that, but we have no idea.
So are you waiting for me to confirm that? I mean, yeah, we definitely do.
So the problem is that where are the analyze in Excel files usually, in your experience?
Well, I mean, in my experience, they get downloaded and stored probably in SharePoint. If they're working with an Office 365 ecosystem, sometimes they're just running locally on the desktop, but that usually is synced to SharePoint now anyway. So
it's a pain. Nobody knows what's going on. That's why we want to include those, because it could be that something is only used there, right? Some people are, I don't know, pulling some measures that are not used in any reports, but maybe only in the Analyze in Excel stuff. And that's why we actually built a function to get the activity logs from Power BI. So here we will find out who is doing Analyze in Excel through the activity logs. At least we can get the last 30 days. And then we'll be able to see basically, and this This will take minutes, so I just want to show how it works. Since I already ran this like a month ago, I can see that for this data set here, my colleague Klaus created and analyzed an Excel file. So that's one activity in the logs. And then basically I can copy those email addresses. So we want to help you to find the Excel users and to get in touch with them, get their email address, say, hey, can you send me those files? Because we want to make sure nothing breaks down when we optimize the model. That's the whole point. And so, and then you can drag and drop them in here, basically. But enough of this. If there are no questions, of course.
I don't see any new questions on it. I just
Right.
like to say that's awesome, though. I mean, because tracing that kind of stuff through to be able to actually pick up based on what the users are actually using, brilliant, man. Well done.
Right. Thank you. So when I run this now, you can see that I still don't have access to those workspaces. So Measure Killer is asking me, oh, I'm going to grant you access to those workspaces, and it's going to give me contributor. So that's the minimum privilege that we need to analyze the metadata of the reports. And once this is done, it's getting all the report layouts. So Measure Killer is only analyzing the metadata of the models and the reports. Now it asks me to take away the permissions again. I don't want to keep them unnecessarily. I just needed them for the analysis. And now I can see that my weather data set, I have 61% used, and still I have 39% unused, even though I have all those reports that I included, the downstream models, everything. I only have 60% used, and I can see even the biggest column in the whole model is completely unused, and I can clean it up and kill stuff here. We can also analyze multiple models, and in this case, since we had those downstream or composite models, however you want to call it, we can also see this nice little view here where we can see, okay, if I run Measure Killer, for example, I can add, let's add those two models here. Let's run everything again. It will get all the reports that are connected to those semantic models. It will get all the metadata. Just takes like 10, 20 seconds. And then we will also see for those other models, how much of the size of those are actually is not used anywhere. So I can get a good idea of my potential of optimization. And now if I go to models, you can see, okay, so this Corona data set, actually, this is the optimized one. It's 95% used because it is optimized. But then the previous one, the old one, it had only 50% used. So you could run this on the. I always recommend checking the capacity metrics in Power BI or Fabric. See which models are the biggest, which one are the biggest troublemakers, so to speak. Which one are creating the most load on your capacity. And then you can run those here and you can see basically how much potential you have to optimize. If it's 90%, 100% used, maybe there's no point in even trying to, I mean, there's not much to remove, but it could be that the third biggest or third most troublesome model has only 20% used. And we've seen some crazy big models with like 11 gigabytes, and they were able to cut it down to 2 or 3 gigabytes just by removing everything unused, because everybody's scared of touching it because you don't know what you will break. So let's switch over to the next mode, tenant analysis. This is really the coolest thing we have built. And I think this is really something special. So I'm gonna make this big now to show everything what we have here. When I open this up, I get a nice little overview of my whole Power BI or Fabric tenant. So I can see how many workspaces do we have, the data sources, dashboards, the Fabric items, how many models are in Premium, Pro workspaces, personal workspaces, whatever. I don't have to include the personal workspaces because that could be thousands, right? So I can also take them out in the settings, but in our case, it's not that many. And then you can see here, I have a workspace level overview, and I can see also my access and which capacity those workspaces are assigned to. So now we will do some scanning of the metadata inside those workspaces, meaning I'm going to get all the models, I'm going to get all the report layouts in the whole tenant. And this is really made to run at scale. So you can see it's getting all the report layouts in a crazy speed. It's getting all the metadata of the models, but it still takes a little bit of time. But this is really meant to run in a large tenant with thousands of reports and models. And then we can get some really nice insights. Until then, we can either take a look at all the workspaces and we can see what's inside. I can see some lineage. So I can see, for example, all the data sources here, and I can explore, okay, so I have this weather API. In which models is this used? I can see, for example, even if a data flow is using a certain data source, and then if that data flow is using, again, a semantic model, or sorry, the semantic model is using the data flow. So I can also get down this lineage and then see all the connected reports. So that is also quite handy in a lot of cases if you want to change something with the data sources. And something else that we built here in the new version, so I'm just quickly going to open up the new version, the access tab. So we will show you here all the users or groups in your tenant. In our tenant is very small, so there's not much there. But you can see if I open up my user, I can see I have access to 40 workspaces, 130 models, and I can see all of that. And I can see exactly which rights I have, what kind of workspace it is. I can see the reports I have access to. I can see everything basically. And I can also turn this around and see, okay, who has access to which workspace? Or I can see who has access to which models. And then, of course, we can also see, for example, if some people are not in a workspace. So this guy here, Sebastian, my colleague, he's not in the internal workspace as a user in a workspace level permissions, but he has access to this model individually, right? So that's maybe in some cases would be a problem, especially, for example, for reports. It could be that somebody is sharing a report from a personal workspace. Ooh, that would be interesting what's going on there. I can do that here. I can say, okay, show me the personal workspaces, and then show me, if I just expand this, all the yellow ones will be users that have access to reports in somebody's personal workspace, where I just shared one report, and maybe this could be a problem in some organizations. So this is coming in the new version. Now, switching back to the current version, it finished now with the scan, and it says, hey, you didn't have access to those workspaces before. Do you want to remove the access that we just gave you now? And I'm going to say yes. So you can see also it's throwing me some errors. We have a lot of broken or test models here that cannot be analyzed because we do a lot of testing development. So then I will see which ones did not work. For example, data marts and the default models in Fabric cannot be queried. Unfortunately, that's just a limitation. And then I will get all those errors here just to make sure what is not included in the tenant level scan. Any questions so far?
Not at this point, no.
Great. So now this is done, right? You can see it took 168 seconds because our tenant is not that big, but it's still 100 models, 150 reports. Then I get a list, for example, here for all the semantic models. I see all the Power BI models together in the tenant, and I can see the size. I can see how many calculated columns. Whoa, this one has 1,000 calculated columns. Ooh, local date tables. 90 megabytes worth local date tables. Actually, we called this report built by Power BI criminal, because it's a very criminal thing to have so many local data tables, and it's more than half of the size of the model. And the funny thing, this is an actual real world report. So somebody actually built this in a company, and yeah, we're always showcasing this now because it's an example of what you should not do. I can also see the refresh, if you have a scheduled refresh, how long the refresh is taking. And of course, if I open up those models, I can see all the relationships, I can see the tables. Generally, everything that we have in this whole tenant scan, we can also export it. So we can export the whole JSON object or just individual things, individual parts of this scan. For example, what I can do now is I can search for cool stuff. Like I can search for who is doing local data tables. Boom, on a tenant level. See, now I can see all those models that have local data tables. And actually, it's me in a lot of cases, so I guess that's fine. But if somebody else is doing it, I'm going to say, whoa, 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 be careful. Now, so yeah, you can do that. You can also, for example, search for many-to-many relationships, which might also be a problem in some cases. Here you can see how many and which many-to-many relationships we have in various models, or even one-to-one relationships are also marked here in yellow. Those are the ones we flag as not being perfect in some cases. But of course, you can also search for other stuff where you just explore and open up everything here. And for example, if you have some measures or something, you can also see the DAX expressions, of course. Talking about DAX expressions, I can search them on a tenant level here as well. So I can see who is doing, let's say, do we have median? Median is can be very costly. I think I don't have any. No, so this is just there's no median function here because I've done some work with this and I've seen that it's much slower than anything. But you can also just see, oh, filter, right? Or I don't know, distinct count. You can basically search for that. And of course, you can also export that and then you can see, okay, which workspaces is this, which models, and then of course also which measures or calculated columns have this DAX code inside. And we have the same thing for the M expressions. So here also, I can search for example, do we use, I think we should have Snowflake somewhere, no? Yeah, I can search basically for, yeah, like here, for example, CSVs, has some CSV files. I can even search for SQL databases, so, or a certain view, right? If I have a lot of connections to databases, I can search for a certain view and I can see all across the tenant where this view is referenced in any of the M queries. Any questions?
Not at this point, no.
Right. One more thing is that we can also take a look into the reports. So we can see all the reports in the Power BI in the tenant. And then I can see, of course, how many visuals those have. We can also search for custom visuals here. So I can do a custom visual search on a tenant level, which is also pretty cool. For example, here I can search for, maybe let's do Azure map. What's your favorite custom visual, Ken?
I like the one for tracking flight paths, but I can't remember what it's actually called.
Is it Icon Map?
No, it's. No? I don't even know that it's actually available in the store anymore. Flight to be honest path. With you, yeah, it actually okay. Traces them across the globe. So if you got the starting airport, ending airport, it's pretty cool.
Oh, nice. IconMap, I think, is a really good one.
Joseph says the fish tank one because somebody had to say that.
yes, we had that, but I think it's not here anymore. Is it called fish tank? Actually, is it called fish
I
tank?
thought it was 3D aquarium or something like that, wasn't it? It had aquarium in the title somewhere.
Where? Oh, here it is. Look, this is it.
There you go,
Yeah,
Joseph. He's got it for you.
Actually, the cool thing is I can even see here if it's certified, and it is certified. Wow. The funny thing is, we actually had a client a couple of years ago who had a Power BI report with the aquarium, with the fish tank, and for his customers. So the biggest fish was the biggest customer swimming around in there. It was just, but it got so slow, right? If you have a lot of fish in there, it gets really slow. But yeah, fantastic visual. So yeah, I can search that here. I can also, for example, only see if I want to search for all the uncertified visuals. I can also export that, and I can see, okay, which uncertified custom visuals do we have in our tenant? Or if I just say, okay, this guy, look, has 1,000 visuals, has 267 visuals on one page. No wonder this report is slow if you have 267 visuals. Like, who needs 130 buttons on one page? Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we have here in the reports tab. And also, since we pulled the activity logs before, I can also see the views from those for those reports. So I can see in the last 30 days at least, how many views did those reports have. So that's it pretty much. Any questions, comments?
That is very cool stuff. It's a heck of a lot more than just a measure killer, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah,
it's done a ton of work with that. So I don't see any questions in the chat, but if anybody's got any questions, please drop them in there. Gregor would love to answer them. I'm just impressed. Like, honestly, I mean, how far afield you've gone with this and turning it into. You're gonna have to rename it because it's much bigger than just a measure killer. You got a whole audit tool in that case.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's the whole thing. So a lot of tools were always about the model and this, and then some people built some stuff for governance. And since we also went into the reports, we said, hey, we have actually all the information. We can get the scanner API, we can get the models, and we can get the reports. So let's build like some cool stuff with it. Like this custom visual search is not so easy to do otherwise, or just seeing what is used across the whole tenant.
I love the concept of being able to actually look at that and say, hey, this report or this column is being used by someone. Because I mean, hasn't the advice forever just been like, well, if you want to know if somebody's using your report, just stop producing it. Well, no, that's not really the best way of doing things, because what if it's only used once a year, but it's critical, then you find out when it's not there, right? But at least at this point you can go and you can look back at it. And the fact that you can actually also go back and pick up the analyze and Excel columns, or the activity usage, that is killer. Like, that just incredible. Really impressed.
Yeah.
Really impressed. So
thanks. And if you have any ideas, we're always building new stuff. Yeah.
Definitely. I got to be careful, man, because I build my own software too, and I play in the same region you do. I don't want to end up in a conflict
with monkey tools.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I've been scoping building the ability to remove measures and power queries and things like that as well. I haven't got that built yet, but I also want to make sure that I'm not conflicting with what you guys are doing, because you know what? I mean, mind you, my world is Excel world. Your world is more Power BI world, so I think we're good there. But yeah, no, it's but very cool. Like I say, I'm shocked with how far it's gone, and I think your title doesn't do you justice for what you do today. I would definitely say. Having said that, changing a brand name is
tough,
an awful lot of work. So, but yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff.
Thank you so much.
I don't see any other questions coming into the chat, so I guess we'll wrap it up for today. So I'll get the recording of this posted in the next 24 to 48 hours. We will post about it on Meetup, so everybody that is subscribed to the Meetup group here will get notified about it. Thank you again for coming and doing this, Gregor. I really appreciate it. Fantastic presentation. Thanks, Joseph, as always, for coming and doing what's new in Power BI. Appreciate that as well. And we'll sign off until next time. Don't forget to RSVP for our next session with Rick de Groot on Power Query. So see y'all next time, folks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. See you, Ken. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you bet.